Hi. Chapter 8. Sales and operation planning. In this chapter, we'll talk about sales and operation planning. You always have sales and operation follows the sales. So these planning has to be synchronized together. Now, the objective, the learning objective is to understand what sales and operation planning is and how it coordinates manufacturing, logistics, services, and marketing plans. It's also to construct and evaluate the aggregate plans that employ different strategies for meeting demand. And we will explain the yield management and why it's important strategy. Now, what is a sales and operation planning? Aggregate operation plan. A plan for a labor and production for the intermediate terms with objectives to minimize the cost of resources needed to meet the demand. There is a demand in the market coming in soon, and you need to set up a plan for the labor and the production in order to meet that demand at a minimum cost. Sales and operation planning is a process that helps firms provide a better customer service, lower inventory, shorten the customer lead times, stabilize the production rate, and gives the top management a handle on the business. So all these issues here are important for any operation. The sales itself, the low inventory will lower the cost. The shorten customer lead time, we spoke about last week. It's people will be waiting less, so they will come back again and they will be happy and stabilize the production. So all these issues are important for any operation. This must occur at the aggregate level and also at the detailed individual production. Now, when we're talking about sales and operation planning activities, we usually bring the subject of sales and operation planning, or SNOP, was coined by companies to refer to the process that help keep demand and supply at balance or equilibrium. So the more it's at the equilibrium, the more you're maximizing your profit, you're minimizing your costs. The new technology is meant to capture the importance of the cross-functional. Maybe in the next chapter, we will be talking more about the technology that we can utilize in such an activity. This activity required integrated effort with the cooperation from sales, distribution, and logistic, operation, finance, and product development. In other words, all the departments have to come up with an understanding, and they're all in one boat, so all of them have to operate in synchronizing with each other. And aggregate on the supply side is done by product families, what kind of products similar to each other. And in the demand side is by a group of the customer, what kind of customers are coming in this hour or next week or next year. This is how you do the aggregations. Now, there is types of planning. There is a long range planning, which is a planning focused on horizon greater than 1 year. So within 1 year, you will see how things is happening. Intermediate, which is usually between 3 months or 18 months, is time, and increment are weekly, monthly, and quarterly. So it's like it's not a whole year and 6 months. It's like a 3 months every 3 months for 6 times, for example. And then you have the short range planning, which is a planning covering a period from 1 day to the 6 months, with the daily and or weekly times. Sometimes you go to the supermarket and you will see some products are really cheap, but you look at the behind the can and you will see like it's very close to get an expired date. And the reason they know that that time there is certain people are coming, so they bring the about to expire, so it will be sold at a very cheaper than it goes expired. Something like that. You need to synchronize between your sales, your operations, and your inventories, and when the customers are coming. Now, when it comes to the production planning environment in general, the external environment is it's the outside the production and the plants directly control. They're not controlling it. It's the external. We have controllable, we have uncontrollable. In some firms, demand can be managed, and this is called yield management. So if I'm controlling the demand, that's our best situation, which is called a yield management. The complementary products work for firms facing, cyclical demand functions. And with the service cycles are more often measured in hours than months. So if you notice like a peak hours at 12 o'clock and then until 2 and then goes down or south, this is like hours when it comes to a service because it's a perishable good. So the accurate response entails the refined measurement of historical demand pattern blended with the expert judgment. So you look at the historical part of it and see at this time, at this year, what did happen. So you go with that and you add some experiment with it, your experience. But there is application, which is we will be talking about it probably next week about these application. One of them is a very famous, it's called benchmarking, and there's a lot of CRM tools. There is two other tools that you can utilize as a software to help you in doing the production planning. Now, overall, the inputs of a production planning system, as we said, there is an external things to out of the hand of the firm, and there is an internal. The planning for a production is involved with all these affecting the production. So the first one is like the market demand, the raw material availabilities, the competition, the competitors' behavior. These are the external one. The economic condition, you cannot do something about it, and it's from the outside. And the external capacity, such as a subcontractor, whether he can supply you with enough in a time or below the demand. This is also as a subcontractor. The internal issues is the activity required for the productions, whether you have things in the warehouse, the current workforce that available can process this product, and the current physical capacity, how much you can produce in this activities. Now, production planning is strategy. Production planning strategy of the plan for meeting the demand. As we said, the trade-off involved including the workforce size, the work hours, the inventories, and the blockage. You need to balance between all these. What's your workforce? How many people you can bring? How many people you can release? How many hours you can do each one person? 8 hours, 6 hours on weekend, weekdays, 12 hours. Whether you have enough in the inventories or you can bring them just in time. And the blockage, the issues that you might face while you're doing the production. So there is what you call a chase strategy, which is we saw it in the video, hire and lay off employees as the order rate varies. And there is a stable force, variable hours, you give more hours, less hours. There is a level strategy maintaining the stable workforce at a constant output. And you have a warehouse when the demand is down, you can have them stored, and when the demand is high, take them out of the uh, the warehouse. And then you got what you call a pure strategy. Use just one of these approaches, which is one of or a mix of these strategy, which is the levels, the production planning, and the chase strategy. You can have a mix, or you can do one of them only. Now, there is, whatever is your strategy, there is a cost relevant to it. So there is a cost production, basic production cost. You need to take that into consideration. There is a cost associated with the changes in the production rate. Do you need to, if you increase one more unit, how much cost is happening? And we brought the example of turbine electricity. When we are trying to add one more, is a cost, it goes very high. So these are, you need to take the inventory holding costs. How much cost you need to put these things in the inventories, and the back order cost, which is orders that really is uh, uh, filling the pipelines of production. How much these are probably, can you take more or less? These are all costs that involve with them. Now you have the budgets, and to usually operation managers, submit their budget according to the requirement of the management, and according to and they adjusted budget according to the demand of the market. To receive the funding, operation manager are required to submit annual or quarterly budget requests. Aggregate plan provide justification for the request budget amount. So there is a demand of 8 units, you have to plan for a budget of 8 units. If there is a 10, plan for 10. If it's or a little bit more or less. If it's a 5, we plan for 5, a little bit more or less. Accurate medium range planning increase the likelihood of receiving the requested budget and operating within the limit of the budgets. So if you're very accurate, definitely through the history, you will build enough credit with the finance department, with the management, and you will get your budget exactly, and also will help you to plan according to and spending according to your budget. Now, yield management. In the yield management is usually the process of allocating the right type of capacity to the right type of the customer at the right price and time to maximize revenue or yield. So what's involved in it is the right type of capacity to the right type of customers, right price, and right time. So these are all, if it's synchronized with each other, will be maximizing your revenue or yield. Can be a very powerful approach to making the demand more predictable. If you can predict all these, it's a very powerful where you can survive with a minimum profit. And it's important for also for aggregate planning to do it this way. So and has been existed as there has been limited capacity for serving customers. So if you can really manage the right level of allocation of capacity for the right customers at the right price and time, then you will be able to really maximize your profit. And it's our first time it was done in the American Airlines. But now if you see the hotel industry utilize this business very well, this process. Now, in the yield management, for success factors, you need to estimate and see the demand can be segmented by the customer. You need to do that. So you can separate, for example, in a hotel, family from single people, from event, from business. You also need to have a fixed cost. If the fixed cost is very high and the variable costs are low, this is where the yield management is important. Inventories that you have is perishable. Like, when the plane flies, the seat is empty, it's going to be empty. When the day pass by, if the room is empty, it's going to be empty. So this is a really perishable. And the product can be sold in advance, and in demand is highly variable. It could be go really high, for example, during Christmas time or traveling time, and low in the other non-traveling times. Now, once again, about the hotel, the yield management, hotels offer one set of rating during the week for the business travelers and another set of during the weekend for the vacationers. So there's a different pricing, even with the background of the people which countries coming from. They also have the different rate also. The variable costs associated with the room are low. Changing the sheet, bringing some water, a new water, and all these things. So it's very low. A cost of adding room to the property. Available room cannot also transfer from night. If it's not occupied, it's gone that day. The revenue is gone. And blocks of room can be sold as a convention, so suddenly it can be sold to a convention or tour. And there is a potential guest may not come in, they'll stay or do not show up. So you know, it is very variable when it comes to the utilizing it. So you need to have some kind of a control over it. Now, pricing structure must appear in the same time, what is putting the restrictions. The pricing structure also must appear logical to the customer and justify the difference prices, which is called rate fence. So if it's a business community, they might have a different prices in their mind than when you are going on a vacation. So must handle the variability in arrival starting time. Sometimes they come at 6 o'clock, all of them, as a group. So you need to really work very quickly, and sometimes they come slower. And you need to provide that service as soon as possible. Some management strategies that they do in the hotel, for example, is scheduling additional personnel to meet the peak time demand. They can increase the customer self-service, which is they can take their bags to the room, or they can check in, all these things, or creating adjustable capacities, utilizing the ideal capacity for complementary services, so they can, knock on the door and bring some more free coffees or all these things. So when they are idols, and cross-training employees to do more than one activity. So they must train workers and manager to work in an environment where overbooking and price change are standard, and occurs that directly impact the customers. These prices can be, goes up and down. Overbooking, booking to the capacity is the best situation, but the management had to get trained on that. So this is the end of this chapter. Thank you very much.